This is a massive Thursday night game, and there are some clear guys you're going to want to play. Here are 7 guys you need in your lineups for Thursday night. And let's start by saying play Mike Williams, whether it's in your season-long league or at likely lower ownership than it should be for daily fantasy sports. Because in week 1, Mike Williams led all the Chargers receivers, including when Keenan Allen was in the game, with 62 snaps and 31 routes run. This is elite usage. Now, here's the bad news. This usage led to just 4 targets, a couple of receptions, and it was not a happy day for many people who drafted him and were expecting big things week 1. This usage only led to 4 targets, and that's not great. But last year, Mike Williams saw 4 or fewer targets just twice, so there's a really good chance this is just an outlier. So don't overreact to week 1, and here's why. Mike Williams' usage was still elite, and Keenan Allen left week 1 early, and it's unlikely he'll play on the short week Thursday versus the Chiefs. And as you can see, Ian Rappaport says missing the game Thursday for Keenan Allen versus the Chiefs makes sense. Yes, it does. So not only was the usage elite, and we probably don't see Keenan Allen, and we know Mike Williams is a great receiver, but they're incentivized to use him this way after giving him a top 12 wide receiver contract this offseason. 3 years, $60 million rooskies. So play Williams in DFS, start him in your season-long leagues, and then get this next guy. And that would be Chiefs wide receiver Nicole Hartman, who actually started week 1. He was the wide receiver 3, and he ran 25 routes, which was about 61% of the routes in this game, which is very good for his daily fantasy price, his DFS price, when you're attached to Patrick Mahomes. Now, this usage led to a solid 6 targets and a touchdown. Now, here's what you need to know. 5 of Hardman's targets came from the slot, so he was primarily the slot receiver here. That was 83% of his overall targets were from the slot. And the Chargers slot cornerback is Bryce Callahan. Now, as you can see here, the higher the number, the better. From 2017 to 2020, Callahan was one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Since then, he's been okay, but he's still a solid cornerback. That said, he did allow 3 receptions week 1. And one more thing. Nicole Hartman was the only Chiefs wide receiver to see a downfield target of 20 or more yards. We classify that as a deep target, and he had 2 of them. And leading Kansas City in deep targets when you're attached to Patrick Mahomes means that your targets are going to be more valuable, and at a cheaper price point in DFS and on the waivers in your season-long leagues, he's worth a grab. So get him and then prioritize this next wide receiver. And we must preface it by saying we touched on Keenan Allen earlier. He himself, like we discussed on Monday, said that there's a small possibility he plays Thursday night. It's unlikely. It's a hamstring injury. These things are difficult to play through or play at full health. And if he was to miss time, the main beneficiary would be second-year player Josh Palmer. Let's discuss. Palmer operated as the wide receiver 2 the moment Keenan Allen went down. He started playing in 2 wide receiver sets when they had 2 tight ends on the field and no slot receiver. And during that time, he saw 51 snaps overall in the game and 26 routes run. These are solid numbers. And now check this out. In 2021, Josh Palmer started 3 games as a rookie, and he averaged 15.8 fantasy points per game, which, just for reference, was the same amount that Jamar Chase averaged per game last year. Now, I don't think Josh Palmer is Jamar Chase, but this just shows you that he can be and likely will be productive in this offense with Justin Herbert. So play him with confidence and then lock in this Thursday night running back. And that's Chiefs RB1 Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, who week 1 on just 10 touches, 7 attempts, and 3 receptions produced 74 total yards. And he sat with most of the starters in the 4th quarter. Now, here's why you want him. Edwards-Hilaire was seeing the red zone work over Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco, who really only got in for the blowout run. But not only that, he was also, according to Pro Football Focus, a top 3 graded pass catcher, as you can see right here, amongst running backs, and also a top 3 graded pass protector, which if you're going to protect Patrick Mahomes, yeah, you're going to stay on the field. Now, here's how his week 2 matchup versus the Chargers sets up. The Chargers struggled week 1 versus the run. This was a major point of their defense last year, struggling versus the run. They ranked 25th out of all teams in defensive run stop. More specifically, they allowed Josh Jacobs to average nearly 6 yards per carry, 10 attempts for 57 yards. And not to mention, they missed 8 tackles week 1. So here's your takeaway. This is the highest game total on the week, and the Chiefs have the highest team total at 29 points as 3-point favorites. These things set up amazing for running backs, like you saw last week with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. So play CEH and then grab this tight end. And that would be the new Chargers tight end Gerald Everett, who is going to be a fantastic DFS play. He is a cheap price point for this Thursday night showdown. But not only that, he's worth a pickup in your season-long leagues. He's likely the best tight end available on your waiver wires. He was 3rd last week in week 1 with 23 routes run for the Chargers. He ended up running around on 68% of Herbert's dropbacks, which is pretty solid for a tight end, translating to 4 targets and about 13 fantasy points. But that's not all, because like we said, Keenan Allen is unlikely to play, which will only lead to a higher target rate for Gerald Everett. And he will face Chiefs linebacker Willie Gay in coverage, and here's what you need to know about Willie Gay. Gay ranked 67th out of 73 week 1 linebackers in coverage, so he was bottom 10 in coverage. And he allowed a 100% catch rate, and this was against an an injured Zach Ertz, and Gerald Everett is healthy. Now, one more thing. Justin Herbert loves his tight ends. Since becoming a starter in the NFL, he targets tight ends at a 21% clip, which is top 5 in the NFL. So start Everett and then get this next wide receiver before he breaks out. And that's new Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, who week 1 he ran 32 routes, and this ended up translating to, as you can see here, 8 targets. And if we do the quick math of 8 targets divided by 32 routes, that's a 25% target rate, and here's why this is interesting. The last 2 seasons in Kansas City, Tyreek Hill, potentially the best wide receiver in the league, averaged a 24% target rate and then an elite 30% target rate. So his average over those 2 years was 27%, which is pretty close to what Juju did week 1. Translation, this usage was elite, and he will have a solid matchup week 2. See for yourself. Juju will see both of the starting cornerbacks for the Chargers. Right now, J.C. Jackson is 50-50 to play Thursday night, so let's assume if he doesn't play, it's going to likely be Asante Samuel Jr. for one, who last year ranked 83rd out of 115 cornerbacks in coverage grades, which is bottom 20%. And in week 1, yeah, it was a tough matchup, but he allowed 9 receptions for 108 yards, and 75% of the balls coming his way, he allowed to be caught. That's not great. And then there's Michael Davis, who is going to start if J.C. Jackson misses, but even if J.C. Jackson plays, he's going to be limited. And Samuel wasn't great in coverage last year, but neither was Mike Davis. He was actually worse. 95th out of 115 graded cornerbacks, was bottom 15% in the NFL. So you want to prioritize Juju and also prioritize these player props. And it's guys we've talked about. I want the over 45.5 rushing yards for Clyde Hilaire, who averages over 60 rushing yards when the Chiefs are at least 28-point favorites. They're 29-point favorites in this one. And then give me over 58.5 receiving yards for Mike Williams, who I have in this game for 81 receiving yards in my projections. Now, if you would like to take those player props and have my projections and rankings for every single week of the year, and I'll throw in a $20 Amazon gift card, you could get all these beautiful perks by clicking the link in the description and following the 2 simple steps to acquire my cheat sheet for this year. And if for some reason you don't like the cheat sheet, I'll refund your minimum deposit of $10. You can keep the $20 Amazon gift card and the cheat sheet every week of the year. I'll let you keep. That is correct. This is completely risk-free, so if you want to get those props, you'll get a whole bunch of perks as well. Click the link in the description to learn more. All right, so we want to prioritize Juju Smith-Schuster, and then we want to get his teammate, and that would be Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who actually led all of the Chiefs receivers in week 1 with 51 snaps and 33 routes. He practically never left the field. But here's the issue. All of that usage only translated to 4 targets. But the positive thing is he caught all 4 of those balls, so there's no reasons why Mahomes can't trust him in week 2. His usage was elite. Let's discuss. MVS was a clear top 2 receiver in this rotation for the Chiefs week 1. And now he'll be getting the same beneficial matchup that we talked about earlier for Juju Smith-Schuster heading into week 2 Thursday night. So play MVS at lower ownership in DFS for sure, and add him in your season-long leagues. And of course, guys like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Travis Kelce, these guys, Austin Eckler, they're going to be in play on Thursday night, but these are some sneakier guys that you want in your season-long lineups, and you'll likely get at lower ownership for a lot of upside in this game environment in DFS. Now, if you enjoyed this content and want to see more like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow that link in the description to get your weekly cheat sheet, which comes with a gift card and those lovely, lovely player props.